Hey guys, King of Charmanders here. As you see, our Lord and Savior, PvPoke.com, recently updated the Great League top performers. In other words, you have the latest and greatest tools and Pokemon to make rank, well, I don't think anyone's at rank 20 right now, to make rank 20 and possibly help you out for the next time Great League comes back around. As you see, these are the most powerful teams from PvPoke. I've done it 7 times to where these teams can take you to 3000 Elo or rank 10 or legend, either one. But these teams are extremely powerful, and PvPoke.com is a resource used by many great and active battlers. So these top teams, I've seen a lot of them. Actually, I was kind of weirded out as why I actually saw some of these teams on, like, today when I was battling. So I was like, that's interesting. Anyways, let's get started. If you'd like to contribute to PvPoke.com, please consider doing so. As far as top performers go, I'm not going to go too much into it. Not much has really changed. Not really. So, I would say just the patterns. Like, for some odd reason, Dugong's still Dugong's really high. Hypno's still a top safe switch Pokemon and actually took the top of top performers, as you see here. Standard, well, not really standard, but Fire Punch, Thunder Punch looks like it's doing a lot of damage in Great League just because Fire Punch and Thunder Punch gives you that coverage. Some people are using Shadow Hypno in there. Well, Shadow and regular Hypno, Double Punch is still viable. I'm assuming people are using Ice Punch to cover Tropius or the Ice variation, or like Flyers, etc. But Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, as you see here, actually works better than Fire Punch, Thunder Punch. Some crazy madman out there is using this one. Mew, as you see, is still a beast. Mew, the Wild Charge Surf variation seems to be taking form, as usual. Like, that's not really a surprise. There's either 2 Mews that I've noticed that are really dominating the meta. It's either Surf and Wild Charge, or is like Grass Not Flame Charge. Literally. Everything, Mew's just charging up to literally annihilate everything in Great League. And as you see further down, sadly, it seems like Clefable and Bastiodon are doing, well, Tap Tap is doing damage. Anyways, let's down to the top teams. Again, I review the top 5 teams that really do some damage in this league, and I think these teams will do very well. These teams have done very well. These teams have taken me to legend. I'm pretty sure they have taken several other individuals to legend, and let's get started. Alright, team number 5 features Stunfisk, Mandibuzz, and Venusaur. This is a super tanky and pressure-heavy team. Venusaur does really well. Well, it's done well since like Season 1, but it does especially well this time around because it resists the Charmers, it resists Fighters, and it can beat other grass types because of Sludge Bomb, and Frenzy Plant just does so much damage. Mandibuzz is a fantastic tank, also really good as a safe switch, so it's very powerful. So I'm assuming Mandibuzz is your safe switch, Venusaur is your closer. Not many things can wall Mandibuzz, unless not many things do actually like wall Mandibuzz, unless it's like Fighters, not even Fighters because it has Airlace. But it's a very, very powerful Mon just because of the sheer bulk it has. As you see here, like I mentioned, bulk, and bulk. This team is insanely thick. Very, very thick. You got the thick Pancake, you got the thick Bird with the bone in its head, and you have Plant Dinosaur. So, yeah, you have really good Plant Dinosaur. Anyways, it's also very consistent. As I mentioned before, this team does have a lot of pressure, so this is a really, really solid team. So, as you see here, it does very well against top rank picks. Galarian Stunfisk has always been an incredibly powerful lead. Literally, it's like since it released in like Season 3, Galarian Stunfisk Leaf has run rampant across Go Battle League. Registeel 2.0 has been taking souls for the past couple of months. And it's probably taking your soul as well as mine. Do I like it? Not really. I have literally, yeah. It's a freaking pet. It's G-Fisk, okay? What else do you want to know? Anyways, this team does really well because, as you see here, Mandibuzz and Venusaur really do cover each other very well. Actually, this whole team covers each other really well. As you see, there's no real one Mon that beats this entire team. And as you see, your top picks aren't really things that are pretty common. Azu's probably going to be your biggest problem because Azu in the league, because you'll have to pivot out of Azu and switch in. Mandibuzz is Azu does give Mandibuzz a big problem. I think that's the big X factor in this team if you see Azu lead. But if you don't see Azu lead, then you can do pretty well. as you see here. Just basic, I guess it's just like water leads, as you see here. You can even take on Swampert because Mandibuzz can handle a few Hydro Cannons from Swampert. That's just how bulky Mandibuzz is. Anyways, scrolling down, as I mentioned before, this team is very, very powerful. Would your only threat being, well, there are multiple threats to any team, especially if they're good players. They manage energy well, if they manage switch well and realign well, but for this team, the biggest threat you have is Mantine. So, Mantine is not super common. You probably won't see around a lot. It's a great Mon, but not for this meta. The reason being is there are so many Pokemon out there, like Galvantula will melt a Mantine into the next existence. You probably will not likely see a Mantine. So I can see why it's the number 5 most powerful team in Great League, as of right now, on PvPoke.com. So, very, very powerful, very, very insane, as you see here. Other than Mantine, Galarian Stunfisk manages really well against it. The only concern is, like I mentioned, the Fairy, or I would say Ice in the back as well. Now that I'm looking at a little Ninetales, Ice does give you a problem in the back. Obama Snow ain't too much. Obama Snow ain't too common in the back. I see it mostly as a lead. However, I have seen it in the back a few times, and it can be here. So just be aware, this team will make you weak to Ice and Fairy types. Fairy, not so much by the looks of it. However, if you do get locked into a Mandibuzz's worst nightmare is Azu. Guess what's a popular save switch? Azu. Yeah. Go Azu. Freaking hate that stupid one. Anyways, on to the next one. Team number 4 features Galvantula, Azu, and Meganium. So Galvantula is it's kind of a double-edged sword in my opinion in this meta. It's a really great lead. However, because the meta is so godforsaken, the meta is so diverse now, Galvantula, even though I agree it's still a really good lead, it's still very strange it's very strange. The reason being is because there's so many pancakes that you could see in the lead that it's dangerous, but at the same time, Galvantula gives you a lot of play. You can do a lot of lunges / discharges. Like Galvantula there's a lot of fancy stuff you could do with Galvantula. For example, I would always have a high attack Galvantula so that when I get Galvantulas in the mirror, I would always win CMP. So that's why I like using Galvantula, because I use a really crappy IV one and win CMP all the time against the mirror match. That was back in the day. Now pancakes are being a lot more popular because the Stunfisk core is really good, but Galvantula does really good in this meta. So the thing of that, I actually saw this team today and yesterday, which was really weird. I was wondering where it came from. Well, now I know. Anyways, I do believe it is a very good team. Azu is your standard save switch, and Meganium is the back is really good. Meganium's a huge tank. The good thing about Meganium is that it has that earthquake potential, because this team is a little weak to Alola Marowak. Well, your lead and your closer are both losing against AWAC, so there's still that thing about AWAC, but Earthquake can do some heavy damage. So the thing about this team is it's incredibly consistent. What I like about Galvantula and any team is that it's going to do a lot of damage. And as here, a lot of damage. Doesn't have a lot of coverage, but like I said, there's a lot of plays you could do with Galvantula in the lead. But you'll see what I mean later. So as you see here, Galvantula in the lead is a beast. Other than the Pancake and the Altaria and the Swampert, which Altaria and Swampert I would say is the ground typing would be a Swampert, and G-Fisk are popular leads. Does really well against everything else. If you see here, this thing murders a lot of things. And this whole entire line absolutely destroys Azu. Azus do not like this line. If you see an Azu, well, that's you. That was pretty much the Season 1 pattern that everyone targeted. I targeted with Solar Beam with Typhlosion. Some people targeted with 2 whole Mons. Anyways, Azu is still popular. You're going Azu, you're going to kill Azu. As you see here, your biggest threats with this team are Tropius. Other Galvantulas, like I said, if you have a Galvantula with high attack or a CMP wave one, you can win CMP a lot. So that's a way you can get around the mirror match. But as you see here, Tropius is not a super popularity, but you could still see it. Other than that, the rest that you see on this list aren't very likely. I have seen some Gengars, but honestly, Tropius is probably the one you're going to see the most, along with Altaria. If you do see Altaria or Tropius, there's a lot of ways you can play that team. So with Tropius, you can either sack Galvantula, double lunge Tropius, and farm it down. Well, actually, I wouldn't recommend that play anyways, because I forgot you have Azu Meganium. So I would try to... Tropius is like your worst nightmare with this team, honestly. Yes, you can probably discharge Tropius down, but you're basically going to have to exhaust everything you've got to take out Tropius, because Azu and Meganium both lose to Tropius. You're not rocking Ice Beam, so that's what kind of makes Azu bad against Tropius. Ice Beam might get better, but this team featured Player Up, so it might be good as long as you avoid Tropius. Against other Galvantulas, like I mentioned before, you still have play against it. Galvantula isn't the thickest boy in the world, so as long as you can break its shields and nuke it, you're gonna do perfectly fine. But as you see here, this team doesn't really do, like, there's a lot of things that this team could be weak against. I saw it a few times today. I still think it's a good team, but with the amount of pancakes running around, especially Talonflame leads, you might want to be careful using this one. So Team 3 actually, so one of the top 3 teams actually has Talonflame in the lead. In other words, there was some person that was really waiting for the rise of Talonflame to come from the ashes of the ground and to come and kill us all with Incinerate. And behold, this is the 3rd most powerful team with PV Poke. Has a pretty good rating too, so this is really surprising. This team is a beastly. I think I actually saw this one today because I remember flame charging a Ferrothorn to death with my Mew. I wasn't sure if it was this team. Anyways, this team is very powerful. Talonflame, Ferrothorn, and Vigoroth. Vigoroth had all this team has a lot of Vigoroth has a lot of pressure. I'm assuming Vigoroth is your safe switch. Ferrothorn does really well in the closer, assuming that you don't see a fighter. I think that's what I pretty much see in this team. If you don't see a fighter in the back, you're Gucci. If you see a fighter in the back, you're kind of screwed. Yeah. Anyways, Talonflame is really good because of the Incinerate, but Talonflame isn't like this, like, well, it's the top 13, so let's dive into it. As you see, this is why I'm kind of, like, confused. Like, this team is I think this team is basically nuke everything and pray you don't see a fighter. That's basically what it is. So with this team, as you see here, good, like, everything is, like, C across the board with, like, a B inconsistency. So I'm really kind of, a little, it's in the number 3, but even then, like, this is a really difficult team to play because you don't have a lot of coverage, you don't have a lot of bulk, and you're not really safe. Vigoroth is a good safe switch, however, if you get a fighter switched into you, like I mentioned before, you're pretty much dead. However, the team still does very well. As you see here, if Talonflame, as long as Talonflame does not see its weaknesses, it can do very, very well. Of course, there's a rise of G-Fist, Swampert, and of course you can still see Ozzy, so the water meta is still Talonflame's biggest threat in the lead. However, other than that, if you burp through shields, no, if you literally, like, burp through shields, which happens a lot of times too, you do heavy damage, and you can set up swap plays with Vigoroth and Ferrothorn. So there's a lot of things you can do with Talonflame in the lead. As you see, this team does very well against the top meta. Just the fighter in the back is probably the big concern. As you see, Scrafty Hitmon top is probably your worst nightmare, or even Medicham in the back. As you see, your biggest weaknesses are basically water types, fighters, or electric types. So the thing about this team is that, as you see here, like, even though, like, Zapdos, you probably won't see Zapdos, you probably only see Charizard. Your biggest thing about the flyers you will probably see is definitely other Talonflames. But like I mentioned before, fighters are probably your worst nightmare. Along with other fire types, like other Incinerate Talonflames, if a Talonflame wins CMP or if they outplay you in the lead, then your back row is pretty much barbecue. Just because their Talonflame is going to go to town on your back row. But anyways, like I mentioned before, as you see here, your biggest weaknesses are the water meta, as well as the, water and the fighting meta, either in the lead or in the back. Probably just Machamp, but, like, if you get the fighter lead, you could probably be okay. As you see here, this team has a very dangerous threat score, so this team takes a lot of coconuts to use. It's the number 3 team, so it's really, really good. I think it will do really well still in this meta. It's just very risky. Well, every team has a weakness, but if you play this team well, I think it can get you some W's because it's really interesting, does a lot of pressure in the back, and Talonflame is a great lead. Team number 2 features Venusaur, Mew, and Stunfisk. Where have I seen this before? Anyways, Venusaur as a lead is very, very powerful. The thing about this team is that Venusaur is a boss. So the thing about Venusaur with the lead, you've probably seen it before, it's still a really great lead. Takes on the Charmers, takes on the Fighters as well. Water meta goes down. And against G-Fisk, your Fungi Plant does some heavy damage. But Venusaur is a great lead. The popular Venusaur Stunfisk core that my buddy Romel kind of like popular. He made it, I think it was like the end of Season 4. He made a Venusaur Stunfisk team with Sableye. And this basically just replaces Sableye with Mew. So as you see here, this team's still really dang good. The Venu Stunfisk core is very good. And you have Mew as a safe switch. Galarian Stunfisk can take on the Flyers in the back. Mew just basically Surf and Wild Charges everything to death. So this uses the Mew set number 1. The second Mew set that's usually used is Grass Knot Flame Charge. This one uses Surf and Wild Charge. I still believe Surf and Wild Charge is a fantastic moveset just because Surf covers the pancakes. Wild Charge nukes all the water types in the back. Which I mean, you could probably run Flame Charge Grass Knot. It's really up to you, but that Mew set still does very well indeed. So as you see here, this team is very safe. Mew is fantastic. Mew was arguably one of the best safe switches in the game at one point, and it's, in my opinion, still very great. Defense is also very great as well. For example, if you have an Azu in the lead, they throw Skarmory into you. Or if they're rocking the Swamp Skarm Core and Swamp is in the front, they're probably going to Skarmory into you. So guess what? You have Pancake. So there's a lot of potential here. The team doesn't have a lot of bulk because Mew isn't the thickest thing in the world. However, I think it's not that bad. So I don't think it's that bad for the amount of damage output you'll be doing. And like I said, it's pretty dang safe. As you see here, Venusaur in the lead is monstrous against the overall meta. It can be Deoxys defense as long as you don't use Psycho Boost, but as you see here, you do a lot of good things against the leads in this meta. Like, really good leads. So, it's very strong. As long as you don't see the Altaria or Skarm Flyer, you're pretty good, but even then, you have Mew and Stunfisk to counter. Mew can take on Skarmory, Mew can also take on Altaria with Wild Charge, or you can at least Pressure Shield. So, there's a lot of plays you can make. As you see, this team is weak to Fortress and Sunny Castle. So you probably won't see a lot of Fortress. You'll probably see it in the back, not really the lead. But if you do see a Fortress in the lead, it's kind of weird. But if you do see one, not surprised. But Fortress is your worst nightmare. Same thing with Abomasnow. Abomasnow lead is also very popular. The Mew Flame Charge Wild Grass Knot variation can take out Abomasnow. So the thing about Mew is that if you face an Abomasnow and you have Surf and Wild Charge, guess what? You get walled. So that's the really bad thing about Bama. Not to mention other ice types like Snowy Castform or Alolan Ninetales. Yes, you can Sludge Bomb through shields. However, Alolan Ninetales is going to get... Unless it's a Charmtails, it's going to do some damage before you go down. Some damage. And other flying types in the lead. So still a really great team in my opinion. It's just... Mew set Grass Knot Flame Charge might work better, but if this team worked with Wild Charge Surf, I definitely think this team could work very well. I still think the Venusaur Stunfisk core is really great in this meta and will do you wonders. As you see here, threat score 637, which is way lower than previous versions, but this team does really well considering with the fire meta, with Talonflame in the rise in the leads, you might not see too many ice leads coming back. So, but that also means you can also see more flyers in the lead, like Altaria, etc. Because Talonflame does lose to Altaria, and it also loses to things like, well, doesn't really lose to that. Yeah, it's like it's still very straight. Yeah, Altaria. It's just Altaria's bird. The big blue bird's gonna kill you. Okay. Alright, game over. We can all go home now. The world's gonna end. Go Battle League is now over because you know why? In the over year that I've been doing this, and I've been observing and analyzing and all of the teams out there. Now, a Tap Bond has now, or a Tap team rather, has entered the most powerful team on Great League. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I don't know if I should go back to simming like a god and making sure that Bastiodon never wall faces its way through PvPoke's training sims ever again. Yes, you heard that right. Bastiodon is now, well, one of the teams, the top team on PvPoke for Season 6 Part 2 is a Medicham, Azu, and Bastiodon. I'm going to assume the Medicham is a Medicham XL. It doesn't say on the team list, but I'm going to assume it is because considering Medicham XL is your best, like, literally the best overall Mon right now. And the most powerful Pokemon in Great League, at least statistically. Medicham XL is the beast. Couple that with the most generic safe switch in the world, Azu, Play Rough, Hydro, and the most, well, it depends. Are you a vegan? No, wait, hold on, how do I compare this? Are you vegan? Do you like really tough steak that's rare, that's ultra rare, no pink in the middle? Or do you like sweets? That was a really horrible analogy for Razor Leafers, Charmers, and Bastiodon. Anyways, yes, Bastion's in the back. Bastion actually does really well as long as you avoid the fighter in the back. That's what Medicham and Azu is for, but Bastion really kills a lot of things. Along with that, I'm assuming Bastion's in here for the Talonflame. Talonflame gets absolutely annihilated by Bastion. Doesn't matter that you have Flame Charge, Bastion absolutely wrecks your soul. So, yeah. Bastiodon in the back is probably the worst nightmare for the Talonflame meta now, because Talonflame gets absolutely rocked by Bastiodon. As you see here, this team has a lot of bulk because of Medicham XM. Well, you have the most bulk. You have the bulkiest safe switch in the game, the most powerful fighter in the game statistically, and you have the most annoying wall face. Probably the most annoying tap. Yes, it dies to Galarian Stunfisk, but you have Azu and Medicham covering you for this team. This team isn't very safe just because what's something that beats both Bastiodon and if there's something that beats, well, if they have something that beats both Azu and Bastiodon, you're kind of in trouble. That's pretty much it, because your safe switching is going to work. Anyways, as you see here, this team is has decent coverage and decent consistency. Not very safe, though. However, as you see here, this team is a beast. It will destroy a lot of things, mainly Deoxys defense, Mew in the lead, so Psychic leads will give you a little bit of the problem. Azu is your fantastic safe switch, and I see Bastion going Bastiodon. And Bastion loses to, like what I mentioned, the fighters and the mud boys, or any ground types like Stunfisk, so you gotta be a little careful with it. However, it will yeet your Talonflame to the next dimension. As you see here, if you go further down, your biggest weakness is the Water, or just rather the Ghost / Deoxys defense. So Mew can also give you a little bit of a problem. You don't know your Mew set, so like you can, and Mew is also some problem. Psychic types, basically things that resist Medicham XL. Psychic types, Gengar can also give you a little bit of problem, because Gengar does double resist your counters, or triple resist actually. So resist that, and then Gengar also beats Azu. Bastiodon will beat it down, but this team is the #1 team for a reason. Like, what I think I've noticed is because of Talonflame. Not just because of Talonflame, but Bastiodon can beat a lot of things in the back, or just literally farm things down in the back. So that's why Bastiodon is really good. I don't really have to go through this team. If you lose the lead, you switch into Azu. And unless they switch Skarmory into you and then you send in Bastiodon, you wreck its life, because a lot of people like throwing their flyer into you when they lose the lead, like with Machamp. I mean, like with Swampert. The Swampert Skarmory is a perfect example. You lose lead against Medicham XL, they switch into Skarmory to safe switch it, and then you throw Bastiodon in its face. Very generic team, not too hard to run. You lose the lead, safe switch into Azu. Try to take back switch, or let Azu go. Break shields accordingly, depending on what you think your opponent has. This team, yeah, that's what it is. Little high on the threat score, but it is the #1 P on Team PvPoke.com for a good reason, and I really think it does do really well, considering you do have the biggest tank in Great League. The best safe switch statistically for a very long time. Well, not the best safe switch now, but it's been like Azu's safe switch has been fairly dominant. And then you have Medicham XL, like I said, the most powerful. When you have super meta together, there's not a lot of errors you can make in Go Battle League. So this team is still very, very good. And that's it. I'm hoping these 5 teams will help you get to Legend, or give you a good idea of what you want to use for later seasons. The meta, nothing's releasing anytime soon, so it looks like these mons are here to stay. But as you see, that's going to really affect the meta. I think Talonflame did shift it to a fire-heavy meta right now, until people realize that Talonflame isn't really that good. But because a lot of people are having fun with it, G-Fisk is going to roam free. So that's why so many G-Fisk teams, or 2 G-Fisk teams are in the lead, and that's why G-Fisk lead is still really dang good. Or things that core G-Fisk, like G-Fisk and Tropius. Unfortunately, you know, it's really depressing that a Bastion made the #1 spot. Not because I dislike Bastion, but this really just shows you just how Pokemon Go PvP really needs kind of an overhaul, just because if something can, it's hard enough for me to sell PvP to my local community. You make Bastiodon the most powerful team, and literally all I see is tap, 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 tap. Or that's all that my locals see. Why should they do that, and not, why should they play PvP and stop shiny hunting to tap their screens all day? That's a good question. Because, yeah. Anyways, that's what it is, you guys. I hope this team really does help you out, but it really does show you that tap-tap teams are getting more vicious every day. As if Shadow Razor Leaf was enough, Bastiodon, since I think last season, became a nuisance just because it does take out the Weather Ball Metal pretty hard, and as you see, it's still very prominent. Good luck in Go Battle League sets, you guys. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do so, and I will see you guys on the next video.